On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Donald Sutherland, the towering Canadian actor whose career spanned more than 6 decades, died on June 20, 2024, at the age of 88 from natural causes. His passing marked the end of an era in which character-driven storytelling and unconventional leading men reshaped modern cinema. Known for his magnetic presence, intellectual performances, and quietly rebellious charm, Sutherland left behind a legacy that defied Hollywood norms while expanding them. Sutherland's career began in the politically charged 1960s, a decade that demanded authenticity and introspection in art. His breakout role in The Dirty Dozen, followed by iconic performances in MASH, Clute, and Don't Look Now, reflected the growing disillusionment of a generation confronting war, government distrust, and personal alienation. Unlike traditional stars of his time, Sutherland embraced morally ambiguous roles, characters shaped by conflict, contradiction, and inner turmoil. His willingness to portray such figures made him a voice for the voiceless and a mirror to society's shifting conscience. His death, while not unexpected due to age, sent a ripple through the global film community. Tributes came not only from Hollywood, but from artists and filmmakers around the world who recognized his unique contribution to cinema. His loss was especially felt by those who admired his refusal to be typecast, his support for independent films, and his global perspective, qualities increasingly rare in a franchise-driven industry. Sutherland's legacy was further amplified by his late career resurgence, particularly as President Snow in the Hunger Games series. In that role, he introduced his haunting gravitas to a new generation, embodying the dangers of authoritarianism with chilling precision. It was fitting that, even in his twilight years, Sutherland continued to challenge audiences to think critically about power, morality, and justice. His death reminds us that memory in the arts is not merely about preservation, but about transformation. Through retrospectives, interviews, and the enduring availability of his films, Donald Sutherland will continue to inspire reflection on the human condition. He is immortalized not in myth or monument, but in his body of work, each performance a meditation on vulnerability, resistance, and truth. In remembering Sutherland, we confront mortality not as an end, but as a threshold through which memory becomes legacy. His life reminds us that power, when paired with humility and purpose, can echo far beyond a final curtain. Christie, the American pop singer best known for his soaring falsetto and chart-topping hit Lightning Strikes, died on June 18, 2025 at the age of 81 from natural causes. His death marked the quiet conclusion of a musical journey that helped define the energetic, emotional spirit of the 1960s. Though not always front and center in the public consciousness in his later years, Christie's passing served as a poignant reminder of an era when youth, rebellion, and romantic idealism ruled the airwaves. Born Luigi Alfredo Giovanni Sacco in 1943, Christie rose to fame during the early to mid-1960s with a sound that merged doo-wop, rock, and operatic falsetto. Songs like Two Faces Have I and the chart-smashing Lightning Strikes weren't just love songs. They were electric expressions of a generation torn between innocence and independence. His dramatic vocal style and flamboyant stage presence stood out during a time when pop music was evolving rapidly, reflecting broader cultural tensions in America over gender roles, freedom, and self-expression. The timing of his death, as newer generations grapple with both nostalgia and reinvention of classic sounds, underscored how cyclical music culture can be. In the days following his passing, social media was flooded with tributes from longtime fans and musicians who had been influenced by his style. His unique voice, literally and artistically, was celebrated as a symbol of individuality in a world that often rewarded conformity. While he may not have been in the daily spotlight in his final years, his influence had long since seeped into the DNA of modern pop. Christie's legacy lies in the emotional vulnerability he brought to male pop stardom. At a time when masculinity in music was often stoic or swaggering, Christie's falsetto challenged norms, allowing space for sensitivity, longing, and theatricality. His songs continue to echo through covers, film soundtracks, and oldies radio, keeping his memory alive in ways both subtle and profound. In remembering Lou Christie, we confront mortality through melody, proof that music, unlike the body, does not fade with time. His death reminds us that while fame may be fleeting, the emotional imprint of a song can endure for generations. We immortalize such figures not only in record books, but in the deep personal memories of those who felt something powerful when the needle first hit the vinyl.
I put a lot of effort into researching and creating these stories every day. If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment. Your support means a lot. Also, I recently opened channel memberships for those who want to support even more closely. Thank you for being here.
Prodigy, one half of the influential hip-hop duo Mobb Deep, died on June 20, 2017 at the age of 42. His death was the result of complications from sickle cell anemia, a disease he had battled since childhood. While he was hospitalized in Las Vegas due to a sickle cell crisis following a performance, it was ultimately a choking accident, likely exacerbated by his condition, that claimed his life. His passing stunned the hip-hop world, not only because of his relative youth, but also because he had so openly and defiantly lived with a debilitating illness for decades. Prodigy, born Albert Johnson, was a defining voice in 1990s East Coast rap. Alongside Havoc, Mobb Deep crafted gritty, atmospheric music that reflected the harsh realities of urban life in post-crack epidemic New York. Albums like the infamous and Hell on Earth weren't just soundtracks to street life, they were documentaries in verse, chronicling poverty, violence, and survival in a way that resonated with a generation shaped by disillusionment and systemic inequality. His death served as a stark reminder of the physical toll such a life can take, both from illness and the stress of relentless work and survival. In an era where rappers increasingly symbolize wealth and invincibility, Prodigy's vulnerability, both in life and death, humanized a genre often associated with bravado. His passing reignited discussions about sickle cell anemia, particularly within the Black community where the disease is most prevalent, bringing attention to healthcare disparities and the need for greater awareness. In the wake of his death, tributes poured in from across the hip-hop community. Nas, Kendrick Lamar, and countless others hailed his lyrical talent and cultural impact. For many fans and artists alike, Prodigy's authenticity became even more powerful in retrospect. His words, already raw and reflective, took on new meaning as part of a final testament to pain, perseverance, and poetic truth. Prodigy is immortalized not only through music, but also through his writing, including My Infamous Life, a memoir that offers rare introspection into the life of a rap icon. His death reveals how memory, especially in art, serves as a form of resistance against illness, injustice, and erasure. Like the verses he left behind, his legacy endures, sharp, unflinching, and real. Joanne Lynville, the acclaimed character actress best remembered for her groundbreaking role as the first female Romulan commander in Star Trek, died of natural causes on June 20, 2021, at the age of 93. Her passing marked the end of a career that spanned decades and genres, from television dramas and westerns to poignant film roles, all of which showcased her strength, versatility, and fierce intelligence. Lynville came to prominence during the golden age of television, a time when the medium was expanding rapidly and new social ideas, especially surrounding gender roles, were beginning to challenge the status quo. Her most iconic role in the Star Trek episode The Enterprise Incident, 1968, was quietly revolutionary. As a Romulan commander, Lynville portrayed a female authority figure who was strategic, poised, and commanding in a genre and era that rarely allowed women such roles. Her presence was a reflection of the cultural shifts of the late 1960s, when women were increasingly demanding visibility and power in both society and storytelling. Her death was not a national headline, but it stirred deep reverence among fans, particularly those within the Star Trek community and classic television circles. The immediate response highlighted how her singular performance had endured as a symbol of progressive representation in science fiction. For many, Lynville's character stood as a turning point, a moment when television hinted at a more inclusive future, not just in fiction, but in reality. Lynville's legacy lies in her ability to inhabit roles that often existed on the margins, strong-willed women who defied expectations without fanfare. Beyond her acting, she was a teacher and mentor, co-founding the Stella Adler Academy in Los Angeles, which helped shape generations of performers. Her commitment to the craft rather than celebrity defined her career and added a timeless dignity to her memory. Joanne Lynville's death invites reflection on how cultural influence is not always loud or immediate. Sometimes it lingers in a single role that challenges norms and opens doors. We immortalize such figures not just with awards or statues, but through continued inspiration: the writers who craft complex female leads, the actors who carry her discipline forward, and the fans who see in her a pioneer. In that sense, Lynville, like the stars she once commanded on screen, continues to shine quietly in the cosmos of memory. Ryan Dunn, a charismatic member of the Jackass crew, died violently in the early hours of June 20, 2011, in a high-speed car crash in West Goshen Township, Pennsylvania. He was 34. The crash, which also killed his passenger Zachary Hartwell, occurred after Dunn lost control of his Porsche 911 GT3 while driving at over 130 miles per hour with a blood alcohol content more than twice the legal limit. The car hit a guardrail, flew into a wooded area, and exploded in flames. Dunn's death struck a jarring chord, not only because of its sudden and tragic nature, but because it embodied the extremes that had made him famous. As a central figure in Jackass, he was celebrated for fearlessly embracing danger, absurdity, and pain in the name of entertainment. His stunts walked a fine line between humor and recklessness, reflecting a broader early 2000s culture obsessed with pushing boundaries, testing limits, and rejecting convention. In many ways, Dunn's passing exposed the tension between youthful rebellion and real-world consequences. While Jackass had been praised for its camaraderie and humor, critics often warned of its glorification of risk. Dunn's fatal accident brought those concerns into sharp relief. Public mourning was complicated by questions of responsibility. Fans grieved the loss of a beloved personality, while others viewed his death as a sobering reminder of the dangers of excess. The immediate aftermath was marked by a wave of tributes from co-stars like Johnny Knoxville and Bam Margera, who expressed not only sorrow, but deep, raw pain. Margera, particularly, was emotionally devastated, underscoring how tight-knit the Jackass family truly was beyond the chaos on screen. Dunn's death also triggered a brief cultural reckoning around celebrity behavior, substance abuse, and the cost of living on the edge. Though his life was cut short, Dunn remains immortalized through the enduring popularity of Jackass, a franchise that continues to draw new fans. He is remembered in documentaries, memorial tattoos, and tribute videos, emblems of a legacy defined by laughter, loyalty, and the dangerous beauty of living without fear. Ultimately, Ryan Dunn's death asks us to consider how we balance thrill-seeking with accountability, and how we remember those who burn brightly but briefly. In mourning him, we acknowledge not only his humor, but our collective fascination with the fragile line between spectacle and mortality. Lawrence Payton, a founding member of the legendary Motown group The Four Tops, died on June 20, 1997 at the age of 59 from liver cancer. His passing was quiet compared to the flashy headlines that often accompany the deaths of major pop icons, yet it carried a profound weight within the music world. As the group's tenor and vocal arranger, Payton was the unsung architect behind their lush harmonies, helping define the Motown sound that shaped a generation. Payton's death came at a time when the music industry was undergoing rapid transformation, moving away from soul and R&B toward hip-hop, pop, and digital experimentation. In many ways, his passing symbolized the closing of a golden era in which vocal harmony, disciplined artistry, and collaborative unity were prized values. The Four Tops, unlike many other groups, remained remarkably intact for over 4 decades, with all original members performing together until Payton's death, an enduring symbol of loyalty in an industry often marked by volatility. The immediate consequences of his death were deeply personal for his bandmates, particularly lead singer Levi Stubbs, who credited Payton as the glue that kept the group emotionally and artistically grounded. Fans and critics alike reflected on the Four Tops' legacy, revisiting classics like Reach Out, I'll Be There and I Can't Help Myself, Sugar Pie Honey Bunch, and recognizing how central Payton was to their distinctive sound. His arrangements and harmonies didn't just support the lead vocal, they elevated it, bringing emotional complexity and resonance to songs that have stood the test of time. In death, Payton's legend grew quietly but steadily. While not the face of the group, his role as a behind-the-scenes innovator began to receive greater appreciation. His contributions are honored through Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tributes, Motown retrospectives, and the continued relevance of the Four Tops music in film, advertising, and cultural memory. Lawrence Payton's death reminds us that legacy isn't always tied to spotlight or spectacle. Sometimes it lives in the enduring sound of a perfect harmony, in the quiet genius behind the scenes. As we remember him, we see that true influence often comes not from volume, but from depth, a lesson in how art, humility, and devotion can outlast even the loudest applause. Ina Balin, the striking and compassionate American actress best known for her roles in From the Terrace and The Comancheros, died on June 20, 1990, at the age of 52 from complications related to chronic lung disease. Her death, though not widely publicized in the mainstream media, quietly marked the passing of a woman who embodied both Hollywood glamour and humanitarian conviction during a tumultuous era of global and cultural transformation. Balin's early success in the 1960s placed her among the ranks of rising actresses who brought intensity and sophistication to the screen. She was part of a generation navigating a Hollywood in flux, where traditional star systems were breaking down and women were beginning to push beyond decorative roles. Her performances, often marked by emotional depth and intelligence, reflected a shift toward more grounded, complex female characters. Yet it was her actions off-screen that perhaps most powerfully revealed her values. Deeply affected by her visits to Vietnam during the war, Balin became involved in rescuing orphans from the war-torn country. She eventually adopted 3 Vietnamese girls herself, a bold and deeply compassionate act during a time when public opinion around the war and its consequences was still sharply divided. Her decision to step away from the spotlight in favor of humanitarian work underscored a commitment to moral courage over career advancement, a rare stance in Hollywood's competitive landscape. The consequences of her death were not marked by mass media tributes or global mourning, but her legacy lived on in the lives she saved and the stories she helped shape. Among Vietnamese American communities and advocates for adoption and refugee support, she remains a symbol of American goodwill during a dark chapter in international relations. Her adopted daughters carried her legacy forward, occasionally sharing her story to inspire others. Ina Balin's death reveals how memory is not solely reserved for the famous or the infamous. It also belongs to those whose quiet bravery shaped lives in less visible ways. We remember her not through blockbusters or awards, but through the continuation of compassion and justice. In a world often driven by spectacle, Balin reminds us that some legacies are born not in the limelight, but in the shadows of war, kindness, and conviction. Through biography, oral history, and the lives she touched, Ina Balin is immortalized in a legacy of action rooted in heart.